fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli here with you, with Russ Gallo. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, Gene?
We're doing great. So glad you be with us. Check us out at www.behindenemylines.radio.us. Or if you're tuning in on AM radio, FM radio, the internet radio, we're glad that you're tuned in, locked and loaded with us. Or if we're traveling along with you as a podcast later in the week, we're glad to be along for the ride. Got a lot to talk about this week, Russ. We got a great interview. And I mean, great interview. I said it during the interview when we taped it. One of the top three guests we have on the show, John Preston, recording artist, Marine veteran who served in Iraq. He's going to be talking about his latest single, Russ. This is some powerful stuff, right?
No, I mean, the guy's a real rock star. I mean that literally in this sense.
Yes, that's the thing. I mean, there is some talk out there that he may be the second coming of Bruce Springsteen. And that's so crazy to think of when we've been talking to John for years on the show, Russ.
Yep, the guy is great. Very interesting story. Gene will put out all the information on how to find more information about him. But John, keep up the good work, brother. I love you.
Yeah, and Russ just made more work for me to do. So, typical state of affairs here on the show. But you know what? Let's get into some news, because, that's kind of what... We're not music critics or anything like that. That's not what we're here for. So the president, Russ, this week, I should say last week, really, because we're in a new week now, unveiled his proposal to Democrats for immigration reform, and there are some controversial issues here on both sides of the aisle. To outline the plan real quick, President Trump is offering, I guess, a pathway to citizenship, if you want to call it, amnesty, if you want to call it that, to, I believe it is over 1.6 million dreamers, as they're called, people who we hear with the Deferred Action for Children's Act. That's controversial on the Republican side. On the Democrat side, we're talking about the end of the visa lottery, the end of chain migration, except for immediate family, and $25 billion funding the wall on the southern border. A lot to unpack here, Russ. Where do you stand on where this proposal is? Do you give, as it stands right now, do you give it an up or down vote?
That's tough, Gene. I think that the president needs to do a better job of selling this to the American people and to his own base. Because like you said, there's people on both sides that are just not happy over it. And for good reason. He's talking about pathway to citizenship for 1.8 million people. On the high end, I thought President Obama and his, the left were projecting about 800,000. So where did this extra million people come from? So I don't know where I stand on this, Gene. I like the idea of the wall and the end of chain migration and the visa lottery, but I have to see that in stone to be able to make this deal. And then maybe I could support it wholeheartedly. What do you think, Gene? I don't know. Where did the 1.8 million come from? I'm having a hard time understanding this.
I'm assuming he expanded the criteria of what would be allowed under a new DACA proposal of who would be allowed to have a pathway to citizenship. That, to me, is a sticking point, and I'm glad to get into it. But you talk about selling the plan. The selling of the opposition to the plan is even worse, Russ. When you have people going around, including Nancy Pelosi, calling it, racist, and the phrases that are being used, I don't want to repeat on air. But
I mean, let's get down to some of them: white supremacy, racist. Yeah. I mean, this is really. Nancy Pelosi. We talk about this all the time, Gene, but Imagine Nancy Pelosi being the Speaker of the House again. Like, this woman is completely insane. And I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to Maxine Waters and her response to the State of the Union. I know that's
absolutely. That's going to be tremendous.
I'm going to have that recorded and watched. I have to watch it. It's going to be insane.
DVR that, folks, if you can. It's going to be a hoot. But back to Pelosi's reaction to this. The left's reaction, and we said this in a recent posting we did on Newsmax, Russ. All the Democrats can offer are histrionics and hysterics right now. They can't offer any quote-unquote resistance. And they're supposed to be the resistance, according to them. I don't get it.
But, Gene, what is they're resisting for the sake of resisting now? They're getting more than they asked for. Like, Donald Trump is brilliant. He's a stable genius, if you will. The guy is giving them $1 million more than they asked for, as far as people. And the Democrats are calling him a racist. By the way, 99% of those people that we're talking about, out of the 1.8 million, 99% of them, guess what? They're not, Gene. They're not white. So how is this a racist, offer here, but on behalf of the president? He's letting in 1.8 million people that are not white, and this is where I have a problem with it, offering them a path to citizenship. I would have offered them a path to legal residency with the never option of becoming a citizen. Once you become a citizen, you vote. There's no way someone who came here illegally or who was brought here illegally should become a citizen without going back to the end of the line and going through the process the right way. I'm sorry. So the president has to do a real good job of selling this to people like me as well.
Well, again, this is one thing I've learned from the art of the deal, at least in my experiences, is that you never accept a first proposal. So I don't think that Republicans should accept this first proposal from the president. As the Republican leadership, and I think Ted Cruz said it best, and I think, Russ, you paraphrased it perfectly, pathway to citizenship for, it's between 1.6, 1.8 million unregistered Democrats at this point. Republicans doing that will not win over those votes in 12 years. I don't think that it is a smart move. Look how close the presidency was to begin with. And the balance of the nation may tip on this. I think there's a possibility that most of these people will be living in deep blue states anyway, like the People's Republic of New York or the Socialist Republic of California. But, yeah, I think you need to unpack this a little further, Mr. President. I'm behind you on getting rid of the lottery. That's a no-brainer. I'm behind the president on the end of, chain migration for anyone but immediate family. I'm with you on that. I'm with you for funding for the wall. And I think the president has even softened that stance somewhat by saying that there are areas that don't need a wall and there are areas where there's a fence that just needs maintenance and things like that. But this is a major sticking point for his base, I think. I think you're going to see, we always talk about President Trump can shoot someone and his numbers will never go down. If President Trump grants amnesty to someone, that might make the numbers go down, Russ.
Yeah, the only thing I can fall back on, I don't want to sound like I'm a Trump zombie, but I do trust the man. So I don't, and this was, Trump was never truly a conservative. He has lots of conservative leanings, but he's not part of the movement. He's never has been. He's given money to Democrats in the past. But I trust his instincts in general. And when it comes to the topic of immigration, I feel like this is one of his long-held beliefs. It's very hard to find anywhere in his past where he contradicted these specific values. So I do trust the man. But like I said, I want to hear more about it. I want to understand the logic behind why we should be granting citizenship to so many people. And the other sticking point, which I've heard being debated both ways, is so you get 1.8 new citizens. Do they have now the right to chain migrate their families over? The very people who brought them here illegally to begin with? I don't know. If you were a dreamer, quote unquote dreamer, I hate that term, but if you were a dreamer and you were brought here illegally by your illegal immigrant parent, and now we grant you amnesty and citizenship, can you then sponsor the parent who brought you here illegally? It just doesn't make sense. I hope that's not part of this plan, and the president needs to explain that. The
devil's definitely in the details on that, and I think the Republicans are going to have to refine this. All I got to say is the Senate's going to be fun to watch. Because remember, Russ, this is one of those bills that needs 60 votes in the Senate. So I think the president is also trying to pull people away from Schumer and the hysterics of the left that have been predictable thus far. may be doing that. I think this vote is not geared towards the conservative base. This vote is geared towards centrist Republicans and centrist Democrats, like Manchin from West Virginia, who can now cross over and say, okay, well, let's be adults in the room. We're getting more than what we want, and let's do the rest. Do you think maybe he's targeting it that way to the middle of the Democrats?
I think it's possible because he's putting the Democrats in an untenable position. I mean, let's just be honest. Again.
He's doing it again.
He's the master of this. He's keeping this as their major sticking point. He's giving them the amnesty. More people than they even asked for. For what? In exchange for a border wall, which the majority of American people want. An end to the lottery, which we've talked about. Terrorists have used that to come across and commit terrorist acts here, which the American people support getting rid of the lottery visa program and, a system based on merit as opposed to just luck of the draw. And chain migration, which the American people wholeheartedly are against that as well, where you take your not only immediate family, but your extended family, and you have an anchor that was possibly we talked about anchor babies in the past, and people said that term was offensive. F you if you do. An anchor baby born here, and then they get their parents, their grandparents, their cousins, their uncles, and then they chain migrate. It's insanity. It's insanity. We're not doing a merit-based system. We're doing because I knew somebody, I got in type system. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And the president is forcing the Democrats to defend those positions in public and keep that on the agenda going into the 2018 midterm elections. Brilliant move. I hope he can keep it going the whole way while the economy continues to break records daily, it seems like.
It's very simple, Russ. Democrats want to run on DACA in 2018.
Do you really believe that, Gene? I mean, wait.
Yes, they do.
That's true?
They don't want a solution.
I think it's suicidal.
But
I think that is the stupidest thing they could possibly do.
I agree, but now it's suicidal because Trump made it suicidal. That's the difference.
Think about Gene, do you think a southern state or some of these Midwest states where that actually went for Trump are going to tilt back to the Democrats on the issue of DACA?
Listen, the numbers out there are overwhelming. You alluded to the polling recently, the Harvard-Harris poll. 68% of Americans said they oppose the lottery that randomly picks 50,000 people to enter the U.S. each year for greater diversity. And in fact, even more favor merit-based immigration, 79%, over family-based migration. Trump is on the right side of this issue. But Democrats want to run on the fact that Trump is racist. So what's a party to do, Russ, when you're confronted with facts, and people are starting to get facts now, thanks to Trump educating them, but you want to run on the, far fringe left idea that President Trump is a white supremacist, and this just proves it.
And by the way, Gene, I think that all outlets, including ours, should make Maxine Waters' response the official one and ignore whatever I think it's Kennedy is doing.
Let's talk about that. Joe Kennedy, the son of, is that Joe Kennedy's son? I lose track of the Kennedys. I used to, full disclosure, I did intern for a Kennedy once. So I used to know the family tree, but now I don't anymore. But yeah, what better way to show that we are the party of diversity and new ideas than to try out the next generation Kennedy?
Not only do they have the Kennedy, Gene, they got 3 responses. Because they got Maxine Waters doing the insane bass response. And then I believe they have Gutierrez doing the Hispanic response, which I got to double check the name there, but they have 3 responses anyway. And I love it because it's showing how fractured the Democratic Party truly has become.
Oh, it's wonderful to see. Chuck Schumer is not the leader of the Democratic Party. Chuck Schumer is the figurehead of the Democratic Party right now.
And who better? I actually hope. Listen, I want him to be the. I really don't. You want Chuck Schumer in charge of the Democrats? Like, to me, that's brilliant. I love having Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer around, bro.
Oh, listen, we did a show last week on the party
from San Francisco and freaking, is it Brooklyn or Queens, New York, where Schumer is from? It's just perfect. They represent nobody, and they're leading the party over the cliff.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But let's talk about the positive side right now, Russ, because while Democrats are squabbling over the quote-unquote crumbs of immigration right now, President Trump last week was in Davos, Switzerland, at the World Economic Forum, and America's back, Russ, and it's back in a big way on the world economic scene. President Trump